What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 36. This is going to be the after show for our Blizzard Dev interview with Celestalon and Zarhym. Real quick, around the table. Here they are. Chad, are you there? Wait, there he is. There.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Still
Hi.
here.
Still there. Zarhym, you still there? John?
Hello.
I think he ran off.
No, there he is. And Anna's still here, right? Hi, there's Anna. Are you still there?
Anna is here, yes. Yes,
Perfect.
I am. Armed,
Awesome.
armed with drink, yes.
Armed with drink. Yes. Very good.
I'm good.
I'll make this short and sweet little intro. Usually I don't intro the actual after show, but we have a whole bunch more to talk about. So
Somehow I think this one's going to get more watched than our usual after shows.
do you well, yeah,
I
maybe.
have no idea how to go through all of these questions, though. We have 8 million questions from you guys. Just to start this off, if we don't ask these guys your question, I'm sorry. We're doing the best we can. We literally can't ask them every question that came in.
Nope.
So.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
Well, you could. We just wouldn't have time for any answers.
Exactly.
So I want to go back with some things that we missed in the actual main show here. I said Reforging gone, but I wanted to quell some things about here that Celestalon, you talked about when we were setting the show up about what your take on Reforging being removed, because it sort of lessens gear customization, especially on the long side of that gem slots are going to be more rare, I guess I should say. So what was your guys' stance on dropping Reforging?
Well, we wanted to drop Reforging because Reforging became another of several burdens there were on what you had to do to an item before you could wear it. We want to try to minimize how much that happens. But additionally, what it made items be was very malleable. You didn't really care what stats were on items because you could reforge them into whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And we'd rather get to a point where there is excitement about, oh, this item feels different from this other item, instead of it blurring the lines between items. Mm-hmm. However, because we're bringing the value of stats closer together, that makes it all right to do this and makes it not feel like, oh, I got screwed and got the wrong item. And additionally, on top of that, there's the benefit that because primary stats swap based on, we should talk about that in a minute, I guess, but
yes.
Because primary stats swap based on your spec, the range of loot that is available to you in any given tier is wider. So you are much more able to choose from a variety of gear in that regard.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent. Now talk a little bit more about this, because one thing that I think people want to know is, how is this even going to look when this gear drops and it's plate and like people have asked, do the tier bonuses actually change when you change specs? Does the strength change to int? How does this look for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me hop back a little bit one more second to add one more point to the previous line.
Sure.
About Reforging going away, there also still is a lot of stat customization that will be available in terms of gems and enchants. Those gems and enchants are going to be all secondary stats, and there's going to be and flasks as well, I believe. And so there's going to be, just like today, you can get flasks of different primary stats. You're going to be able to get flasks of different secondary stats. So that allows you to, if you want to try a haste build, you can swap all your enchants to haste. There's like right now on live, there's basically like 2-ish enchants, sometimes only 1 in any given slot that's really viable. So there's not much customization there. Instead, it's going to be only a few slots are enchantable, but there's an enchant for each in each of those slots for each type of secondary stats. You could switch all of your enchants to haste if you want. and you can switch all your gems to and your flask to haste if you want to try a haste build. And that's going to be a very significant portion of your character power. So you still will be able to customize gear. And on top of that, there's always the original form of gear customization, swapping the piece of gear.
Sure, the old school way. I mean, we remember that.
Yeah, the old school way.
Yeah,
like that. That's how it worked for a long time. Of like, oh, do you want more haste? Okay, use more pieces with haste.
Yeah.
And so you care about different loot that drops for being different instead of just its eye level.
Okay.
And then, primary stats. How primary stats work between different specs. So how that's going to work is as follows. You're going to see all plate items have both strength and intellect on it. And primary stats that do nothing for you, or primary stats that are not for you, like if you're a strength user, Agi and Int will be grayed out for you. The text of the plus 500 Int will be, that text will be gray, indicating that it does nothing for you, and you won't actually get the Int.
Okay.
But it does indicate that if you switch to Holy, hey, look, that item has Int on it. It is valuable for you. That also has the benefit that like say Ret Paladin sees an item with strength on it, but also sees that it has Int on it. It's just disabled. So she knows that when that Healadin rolls on that plate item, it's not the Healadin stealing my strength item. It's the Healadin rolling on an item that is intentionally for them. And then same deal with male will always have agility and intellect, and leather will always have agility and intellect.
Right.
And that also applies to spirit. If you are not a healer, will be grayed out for you, indicating that it is not for you. And if you're not a tank, bonus armor will be grayed out for you. And any of these grayed out stats you don't actually get. They do nothing for you.
Okay.
Cool. Well, as a follow-up question to that, a bunch of different people in chat, sorry, chat's going so fast that I scrolled past the names, we're asking about tertiary stats as well. That's something that we didn't get into in the show, and I'd like to know, tell us, Raiders, what we can expect from tertiary stats, maybe how often gear with those kinds of stats is going to be dropping. Are we going to be hanging on to flawlessly itemized pieces with tertiary stats into the next tier? I mean, how is this going to affect us? As hardcore raiders.
As hardcore raiders, how you will care about tertiary stats, as they are neat. I don't want to use perks.
Besides complaining about them, which we'll throw at doing.
Yes, but they are little benefits. They are not huge. And if you have a absolutely perfect, the ideal stats for you, and it is like Warforged with a gem slot, it might be worth effectively an extra 6 item levels or something.
Okay.
If you get the next tier of item, you're still going to want to wear that next tier of item. It's not like you're going to be catching these white whales sort of thing. And they are going to be on the rare side, kind of like how Warforged is in Siege of Orgrimmar. And I think that's about it.
How
about Cleave? Silent DSP says, actually, that's the one I'm most concerned about. Do you feel like Cleave is a superior tertiary? Oh, it's gone. Excellent.
Cleave is gone.
Cleave is gone.
Okay. It was a problematic one.
It was a problematic one. The primary reason that was problematic was because it was of situational value to DPS and tanks. It was of always value to healers.
Yeah.
And so Cleave meant it was a healer item, and it also was just a straight throughput buff to healers for the most part.
See, I was thinking about it totally in a DPS way. Like, what if you're doing an encounter where you're not supposed to be cleaving? But no, that's interesting.
Well, we were never really too concerned about that because we could make it not cleave to something that's CC'd,
right?
Or if there's any rare encounter specific things, we could solve that. But no, the problem was loot distribution, itemization, whether that means you see cleave on an item that becomes, oh, now this item that otherwise would have gone to a DPS now goes to a healer, which is not what it's trying to do.
Okay. What about the item upgrade system with Valor? Is that sticking?
Zarhym, do you know if we talked about that publicly yet?
Uh-oh.
I fell asleep. What?
Oh!
Have we talked about item upgrades with Valor?
Have we talked about item upgrades in Valor?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've alluded to things. I don't know how specific we've gotten.
Okay.
All right. Well, here goes. That's not happening anymore.
Yes. Thank you.
No more item upgrades with Valor. There
Gonzo.
were.
Can you explain why? Because I know that the reasons for having it in were very compelling.
There were strong reasons for having it in, but they didn't work out as we would hoped. There is a significant benefit to doing that, but after the first couple weeks of a tier, it basically tapered off so that it didn't matter, and you would just every time you got a new item, you have earned enough Valor to Valor upgrade it, and it just meant that everybody started 6 item levels higher on average each tier, and we just had to tune around that. And
the serious players started 6 item levels higher than the less serious players. I mean,
Yep.
Chat seems to be
I think
overwhelmingly
if
rejoicing.
if it's a petri dish for your analytics right there, I think that's a positive one.
Oh, please don't let
I
Twitch
hate
chat be
it.
a petri dish for anything.
Well, okay, that's fine. Oh, Twitch chat.
No offense to the people here; they're beautiful
insult our
people.
Oh goodness me.
Just Twitch chat in general.
Well, that's
you people
fair.
are beautiful.
Yes, our viewers are better than the usual Twitch chat people. Our viewers are superior.
It is true. It's a fact.
Well, if we're done here with items, I have another question that got brought up a couple of times in chat, and I will give the credit to Kadraga. The mobility with regard to ranged. We did not go into this in the show, and this is a big topic. You guys
It is a big topic.
You guys seem to be cutting mobility for healers specifically. You're also cutting mobility for ranged DPS, which I know my favorite alt is a ranged DPS. It is way more fun to cast on the move, but as a melee DPS main, I feel like it's poisonous for rating as a whole to have casters be so mobile in general. So I'm happy to see it, as much as it sucks to be happy about anyone getting nerfed. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about the changes that you're making and why hunters are excluded. Are they special? What's going on?
So yes, it's important to the melee ranged balance that there's some trade-off between melee and ranged, and one of the but not entirely one of the balances there is the value of movement. And it's supposed to be one of the benefits of being a melee that you can continue DPS while you're following the boss around, and that's gotten somewhat lost. The amount of ability to DPS while moving has gone up and down across different specs.
Absolutely.
And and so there are a couple outliers that we want to bring down in that regard. We want you to be able to do some damage while moving, but
being able to do nothing would suck. So
yes, but moving is supposed to be a DPS loss, but that's not a bad thing for gameplay. That means you care about movement as something you want to optimize and can be skillful about. So there are. I'd comment about the two largest hit by this is Elemental and Warlocks.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that everyone's talking about, because those are the ones who lost a significant amount of their mobile DPS.
Yes.
Being Castle-Moving Lightning Bolt and Fell Flame. The thing to remember there is that we are going to tune around that. That encounters are going to be based on, are going to do require damage based on how much damage you can do while you're doing whatever movement there is in the fight, and it's something we want to balance better between the different specs. And like you bring up hunters, that is one of the perks of being a hunter. Hunters are, one of their perks is being able to cast most of their things while moving.
Okay.
How is it okay for hunters, but it's not okay for everyone?
We balance that in other ways, like having a pet can be a detriment sometimes.
Okay.
But that applies to warlocks as well. Having different amounts of cooldowns is another way that is balanced. And that's just having other non-DPS utility like disengage and deterrence mean that they can choose to move around or when they need to in faster ways or avoid mechanics that the others don't have to. But at the same time, other people have utility as well that is not as quantifiable like that as well. Things like the raid utility that others bring, like hands and off healing and that sort of thing.
Always going back to the paladin references with me.
Well, I always go back to paladins with you.
I know, it's like
it's hard not to talk about paladins when you're talking about raid utility.
Yeah,
So
it is very.
It does sort of seem like they almost are bringing the most now, but so much of it is like single targeted. It's not like a blanket, like
a lot of it is
single targeted.
A lot of it is single targeted, but they bring so much of it in that regard that you start having to consider it being on par with some of the other more widely applied things. So back on the mobile DPS, I think there's also, I want to console or reassure reassure the shamans and warlocks that I kind of said this on CTR, but it's easy when you have such a strong, overwhelming movement DPS ability like Lightning Bolt or Kil'jaeden's Cunning to forget about the things that you do have that are good for movement and buttons that are good because you can do them while moving. Like instants let you use them while moving. That's one of the perks of being instant. And if you've got Lightning Bolt while moving, you stop caring about that. And it's easy to forget that you still have that. So warlocks still have a bunch of things they can do while moving. Shamans still have a bunch of things they can do while moving. It's decidedly less than they had before, but that's closer to a baseline we want to hit for most classes, where you have to stand still to cast most of your stuff, but you have several instants involved in your rotation or otherwise able to cast while moving things in your rotation so that you can be skillful about movement but not overpowered about it.
Okay.
And it also is a differentiator between multiple specs. Like Arcane is much worse at movement than Fire is, for example. And that might be a non-quantifiable patchwork style difference between Arcane and Fire. And it helps distinguish those better.
Okay.
Or maybe what spec you pick for any given encounter.
Okay. So 2 little questions here that I've gotten from chat room as I sort through Twitter and emails. Is there a lesser coin of good fortune system going into Warlords for like the extra roll kind of stuff? Is that sticking around?
I don't believe we've talked about that publicly, so I don't want to steal the itemization team's scoop on that too much.
Fair enough.
But bonus rolls as a concept we think can be improved upon. It's not something we want to cut.
Okay.
So look forward to hearing about how we're improving that system in the future.
All right, so we should look forward to more news on that later.
Yeah. And then what about now, because you let loose that there are no item upgrades with Valor, what are we going to do with Valor with? What's Valor's big point?
Besides buying items.
Well, I mean, like, is
I'm
that still...
going to again defer to the itemization team on that one.
Itemization team, okay, cool.
Clearly what we need is a final boss show with, like, Owen Landgren and Russ Peterson on here next time, maybe?
Maybe. Yeah. Get the item team in here.
Seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
It does.
We'll see. I know this guy Zarhym who does all this stuff. Maybe I'll ask him.
Who is this guy right here? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
I think it's going to have to be Ian next.
Oh, is it Ian next?
Ian
He's ready.
Ian's in line.
Awesome.
Well, let's see what else we've got here.
That's pretty fun. Okay, we'll do that.
Now I know that there.
Watcher for anyone in chat who doesn't know.
Yes, the encounter designer.
Yes.
One of many. I know that there have been a lot of people complaining in many different specs, so sorry if I'm not naming any names, about losing abilities that they feel very attached to. I know you guys went into a lot with pruning abilities. Paladin's wings being limited to one spec is an example. DK's losing Army of the Dead. I think Army of the Dead is being limited to Unholy. Is that correct?
Well,
that's what it said. That's what the patch notes said.
Okay.
So let me spiel a bit on ability pruning.
Yeah, go for that.
So this is somewhat significantly covered in the patch notes, but to reiterate and expand further, we got to the point in WoW where there's just so many abilities, and I think most people agree that there's too many buttons, and it's not a problem. Yes, it's not a goal of dumbing things down at all. Like, we want to be really clear. This is not trying to dumb things down or like take away your toys or anything like that. This is a problem where like these buttons aren't really doing anything for your gameplay. They are useful in that they add player power, but your gameplay would not be any worse off if they didn't exist and we just tuned around them not existing. The best example we talked about on CTR was like Innervate. 10 seconds into the fight, you hit Innervate, and then you hit Innervate on cooldown. There's no gameplay to that. There's no timing it around anything. There's really nothing special or smart that you can do or skillful that you can do with Innervate. It's just button bloat. And so we could take Innervate away and reduce the mana costs or increase your base mana regen and get the exact same effect without you having to hit this extra keybind. It's purely a benefit, even though it may seem like Innervate's been removed. Why you nerf me, bro? It's not a nerf. It's we're trying to get rid of button bloat while still not dumbing down the game. So bloat is one important part of what we prune based on. Other one is cooldown stacking. We want to remove a lot of cooldowns to reduce the amount of cooldown stacking there is. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to do 4 times as much damage in the first 30 seconds of the fight as you do for the next 5 minutes of the fight.
Okay, yeah.
It just was getting pretty silly. And worse, they were effectively bloat in a lot of cases as well, because they're like, well, I got 3 cooldowns. I'm just going to macro them all together and hit them all on cooldown.
Right.
So we want to get down lower on the number of cooldowns that are available and how much they stack. Another thing that matters to when we choose to prune an ability or not is how iconic it is. That word is getting a little overused at this point, but
a little bit. I admit it as someone who used it. I'm sorry, it is getting overused.
It's not to the point where it's like scaling, but it's something that's very subjective.
Okay.
But it is something that a lot of people can generally agree on, or at least if it's used right, it can be generally agreed upon. That like Army of the Dead is pretty iconic.
Yeah, sure.
And so the first round of patch notes have gone up, and everyone's seen our initial current draft of how we're doing ability pruning. And the response overall has been pretty positive. Generally, most people agree with what we're choosing to prune. And that's really good to hear, because what to prune is really hard, because every ability is someone's baby. Someone's favorite ability is this one ability that we cut.
Bring back Sentry Totem. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's that hunter ability that gets said a whole lot too, where you guys look back and you were like, you know what, we just didn't hear from the people who really loved this ability before we took it out. I can see how that would be a fear in the future.
Mm-hmm. So, we've gotten mostly positive feedback about ability pruning. there have been a few exceptions, and that's really
Drain
valuable
Soul.
feedback. Drain Soul?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
keep
one that's
seeing
been
that in
heard.
chat and in comments on the blog and stuff.
Yeah, Drain Soul.
Drain Soul is one we're discussing. To comment on that specifically, we like the gameplay of Malefic Grasp, but Drain Soul is more iconic. So maybe some sort of merger of the two. And there's even a perk that gives you the basically Drain Soul baked into the effective higher damage of Drain Soul baked into a Malefic Grasp.
Well, there it is. Okay.
So something to iterate on there. What I was getting at is there's a lot of iteration to be done here. The patch notes say Army of the Dead, only Blood has it. We're going to try giving that back to everyone, but solve one problem that made it more awkward. We're going to make it instant instead of have a long channel time.
Chat saying Eyes of the Beast as well. I mean, I saw that run by like 15 times here.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen Eyes of the Beast. Eyes of the Beast, maybe at some point in the future it might be something that we see again, but
Okay.
Yeah, we aren't looking to add something back that's been gone for a while. It's not our highest priority at the moment, but we definitely hear it.
Okay.
It was a pretty good example of how hard it is for you guys to make the choice.
Oh yeah, like it exactly. Another one is Wings on Paladins, Avenging Wrath. Paladins had a lot of cooldowns. Especially Holy had like 4, 5. You get up to talent into I think up to 5.
Yeah.
So like it was pretty silly how many cooldowns Paladins could get. So we decided to go for the 3 big ones, give 1 to each spec, and merge most of the other ones into that, outside of talents. And so we said, okay, Guardian of Ancient Kings to Prot, Avenging Wrath to Ret, and Divine Favor to Holy. Response was pretty strong that we love Wings. Wings is really iconic Paladin thing. We're going to try, like Divine Favor, for example, is basically a combination of Divine Favor and Avenging Wrath. We just shoved them both under the Divine Favor name and icon and spell visual and such. We're going to try going the other way and say Healings keep Avenging Wrath, and it also does what Divine Favor and Guardian of Ancient Kings did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so gameplay-wise, that's the same thing, but it feels better, and that's cool. Prot, we are looking at maybe when you have Guardian of Ancient Kings out, you also get Wings just as a visual effect, because that's cool.
There you go.
I feel like that would solve the problem entirely.
Yeah.
I think it is.
That's what people care about.
It's totally a feel thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a feel thing. It's not it's not the gameplay that people are missing there for the most part.
Sure.
It's the feel, because you're a paladin. You want wings. Like, you had wings for so long. It's part of what you look like and who you feel like. So it's something we've got to be really sensitive to, and we're taking great care with. And I think we did pretty well for our first draft, but there's iteration to be done, and those are some good examples of that.
Okay. Now, one that...
And it seems like the feedback has been very positive as well on that, because people want to... A lot of us just don't want all of that button bloat, too. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Point is, we're listening. The feedback about that is very... Blizzard gives me wings.
Yeah, yep. And FYI, chat, I mean, as much as you know that they're reading chat right now, the other place to give all that feedback is, like was said earlier on the show, in the comments on the patch notes. That stuff is being read by CMs and by developers. So just so that you know where you can go to get heard.
Yep. If you've got a huge wall of text to post that is, backing with some real things, not just whining about stuff, take it over there. Right? Yeah.
You can probably also whine about stuff there, too.
I'm sure you could, but I mean, let's be constructive now here, people, all right? Let's help us make, But a couple little things that I think we didn't really go over in the main show. Mages and moonkins. I know that you guys are making mages really feel like if you're a fire mage, you're actually a fire mage now, if you're an arcane mage, et cetera, et cetera. What about moonkins? I guess there's a bunch of people asking about that, and a couple questions came in about what's changing with them. Do you have anything to comment on for the Thunder Chickens?
Moonkin, we are fairly happy with design-wise. We're looking at a couple ways to. I don't have anything to announce yet, but they were in a similar but not as significant situation to Shadow Priests in terms of being good at certain fights and bad at others. Primarily, those like single target DPS was on the low side. Not terrible, but not super high. And so I don't have anything to announce on that yet, but it is something that's on our radar, so to speak.
Okay.
There's also the Eclipse mechanic is getting slightly tweaked just so that you maintain similar gameplay to what you've had despite the changes to periodic snapshotting.
Yes.
So we like the way that Eclipse is snapshotted, and it will continue. Just Eclipse itself will get snapshotted.
There you go, Thunder Chickens. There you go. I know that might have been a thing people were freaking out about.
Oh, AoE as well. Their AoE was also kind of if you stop to do Hurricane and Astral Storm, your rotation kind of stalls, and Moonkin rotation is really reliant on like keeping this rolling, keeping you transitioning between eclipses back and forth as quickly as possible. And if you stop to Hurricane, your whole rotation just stalled out. We're working on that. There's a Draenor perk that increases or makes it so that Astral Storm and Hurricane keep moving your bar. I want to say it's 10. I think it's 10 balance power per second reduced by haste while you're channeling those. So your rotation keeps going and you keep getting Nature's Grace and Eclipse bonuses and that sort of thing.
Very nice.
I have a
and
question
mushrooms.
for you
we're giving them great burst AoE
Yeah, the
damage
mushrooms.
by letting you water. Yeah, you can water mushrooms. You can water your mushrooms before important ads come out if you need to, and that'll do some pretty good burst damage for AoE.
Can water your mushrooms.
This is more of
Gotta
a
grow and tend your garden of mushrooms.
Yes.
I got a Twitter question.
Yeah, go for it.
Unless you had to do. Okay. Well, I had a really good question come in from Glenn Andrew Johns on Twitter, and he said that you guys removed profession benefits because you don't want players to be forced into professions, and that's the reasoning that you gave me earlier on the show. Why are racials different?
Because racials, as a core concept, feel like something that should have player power to it.
Okay.
Because it feels like something that would be lost if racials were just cosmetic. This is a role-playing game, and it feels like your race should matter to your gameplay. So while we don't want them to be significant, or not huge anyway, we want them to be something that you at least can notice. We want them to be as small as possible while still being noticeable. And appreciating your race and feeling distinct in your race, but at the same time balancing them as best we can. And we're making a very significant effort to keep them balanced.
Well, there you go.
Okay, excellent.
Yep. So I'm going to bring up this last big question here. There are too many guys. We are sorry. Again, we went over this in the main show, but Celestalon is on the Twitter when he is sleeping, so he is always there. So if you have questions and you can help quell...
That can't be true. I never sleep.
You can ask questions there, and we've got a whole bunch of blog posts that Blizzard's posting up soon about tons of different things, so keep in tune with those. And the best place to put feedback is in the comment sections of said patch novels. But I wanted to bring this around to you guys in the story of closing. A lot of this sketched out at BlizzCon 2013, and now has sort of started to come to fruition with the alpha. But what do you think for each of you? I'm going to go with Zarhym first. Has been like the biggest surprise that you, I guess, as a company have done or in this expansion have done? Like, what is the biggest thing to you guys that has that surprised you the most?
Oh, man. That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, see, there you go.
Are we talking like historically or Warlords of Draenor specifically?
For Warlords.
For Warlords.
The biggest thing that surprised me as a player, like paying attention to what we're doing and things where I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Is that what you mean?
Answer it however you want.
Yeah,
bro.
I mean, this is you.
Am I overcomplicating this?
Maybe.
Oh my God, you have to give an opinion? No.
I know.
Oh no.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, I am really excited for garrisons, to be honest. I know that sounds like such a cop-out answer, but it's totally true because it's really different. And I dug the farm, but it's like I wasn't personally that into the fantasy of having my own farm. But having my own garrison, like you were saying, Bay, about having your own Warcraft base in World of Warcraft, like that to me is really cool. And from the things I've seen about it, what Chad talked about earlier with the new AI for the NPCs and stuff, I just think it's going to be a really fun way to really feel connected to this new planet that you're exploring. And yeah, I'm just excited for it.
There you go. Cool. I think off of that, because you brought up garrisons before I give Celestalon a little soapbox time, it was suggested a couple of times in Twitter and both email is that you can join people's party to phase to their garrison, right? Because there's been some outcry of why can't your garrison be like a guild hall or house or whatever, where all your people in your guild can meet in one place. Is that I know everyone keeps asking about it, but is there any plan or implementation for that for garrisons, or just party only kind of stuff?
I mean, not to start for sure, but it is something that we're still discussing. What that would look like and how that would be cool, and but at the same time, how I think it's a little easier with the personal garrison, but with guilds, it becomes even more of a question of how cool is it, and is it so cool that the guild is just sitting in their own little personal instance, like kicking back. And I mean, there's something cool about that, but at the same time, the world loses a little bit of something, and players always talk about their concerns for their being less of a feeling of a world to the World of Warcraft, and we don't want that to completely go away. So I think that's always something we got to be careful about and make sure that there's legit reasons and gameplay mechanics to actually get your own guild garrison, or what that would mean, and would your officers own it, or your guild leader, and then would it then just be kind of their special place that you're hanging out in? Could they could they completely dominate the decisions on how it looks and all that stuff? There's just a lot of things. Guilds are very complex machines, as you know, very complex social structures, a lot of drama in that. So we'd want to make sure that it's super cool and not just another stress for progression guilds and things like that.
Ooh, and I have a personal question for Chad. If we're doing these like end questions here, because I got some insider knowledge from somebody who knows him.
Oh
so
no!
I'm supposed to ask you, what is the deal with ketchup? and who gets where that question came from?
Oh, I can guess. What is the deal with ketchup? Well,
I heard you're a really big ketchup fan. Apparently, your desk has many different types.
No, it doesn't. It only has one type.
He has over 20 different types of ketchup in his desk. 20 bottles of it on his desk.
That is clearly an exaggeration.
Wow.
There are 10. I'm counting them right now.
Okay.
And they're all one type.
Oh, okay. So are you super
If you put enough ketchup on anything, it will taste like ketchup.
Yes, I assume that would.
Is this like a metaphor for design? Yes, I like it.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it is. If you put enough damage on Fist of Fury, they will like it.
Oh, there you go, monks. But the last serious question for you then, Chad, is what do you think was the biggest thing that has surprised you for going into Warlords?
That's hard because so little is a surprise to me.
Oh, well.
Because I'm so connected to everything.
True, okay.
So, I'm involved in the planning of a lot of things that, so I don't find out about much that is surprising to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm spoiled in that regard. Everything is spoilers to me. So I'm actually going to go to actually a programming thing. I touched on this in over on CTR, but there is a change that a fairly low level change to how our servers run that we are really excited about potentially. Like we're not positive
Right.
that it's gonna work, but the potential is really, really high. That, like, I don't know if it's something we would ask or like announce in any patch notes even or anything like that, other than just a quick line like the game is much more responsive now. But I'm really excited about the implications of a specific low-level server change that might mean that the game feels a whole lot more responsive in a few specific situations.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I commented that on the notes. I think that'd be really neat if that would happen. I mean, it still boggles my mind how fast it is, you know, because I've played and dabbled in multiple different MMOs. I'm not going to call any of them out, but some of them do feel kind of like, I hit it, oh, there it is, you know, like, or how you move around or interact with different things and how that works out. So that'll be really exciting to see how clean and how much, I guess, like you said, more responsive the world feels in Draenor. So that's the whole game, though, right? Yeah.
To put it in, it's not Draenor specific, but to put it in a little bit of context, WoW, I would say we're very proud of our responsiveness overall. There are some things that are more responsive than others. We think we've got a way to make everything as responsive as the fastest things.
That would be nice, especially coming out of an expansion that was characterized pretty much 50% of the time by ability lag for those of us who raid 25s.
Ability lag was a big problem. Yes.
It was, and so you talk a lot about how responsiveness is really important, and all of us 25s raiders are sitting here like, oh my god, yes, because life sucks when the game isn't responsive.
Absolutely.
So the more responsive you can make it, the more happy
when we have the break of an expansion, we can focus a lot of time into trying to solve the problems like ability lag, and that sort of thing.
Cool.
That sounds amazing. That sounds really great. But we're going with it. It's button pressing time. What, Anna?
Yeah, we've kept these guys way over. Thank you so much for spending so much time speaking to us about all the different things happening in Warlords.
Yes, it was very
a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. So again, around the table, we had Mr. Zarhym. You can find him over there on the Twitter at @CM_Zarhym. Apparently, you're going to go see Captain America very soon, but thank you very much.
I'm taking a nap, and then I'm watching Cosmos and Game of Thrones.
There you go. That's right. That is
Game of Thrones night.
It is.
Game of Thrones is the order of the night.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. But thank you again, sir. It was a pleasure. Hopefully, we guys have you on again before the actual hard release of the game. Of course, after Ian. After Ian, though, right? He's next on the chopping block. Just get him.
The possibilities are endless. We should just get all the blues on the show one at a time. It'd be awesome.
Yes.
And then
Steeple's fingers.
Chad Celestalon Nervig over here, the WoW technical game designer. He's over on Twitter all the time because apparently he doesn't sleep at Twitter at Celestalon. Thank you again, sir. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
It was awesome. The lovely co-host of FinalBossTV, NFL, over on Twitter at NFL.
At NFL, make sure that you complain to me there if you don't like all the times that I mentioned paladins on the show. Also, any other comments you have can be directed at me.
Oh, there you go. That's fine. And of course, there's my face. When I have my own personal stream. You'll find all my social media at twitch.tv/BayTLM. And of course, if you guys haven't followed our social media down below, our Twitter, our Facebook, our YouTube, we're also on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. This episode will be up online tomorrow, Monday, but unless you're watching it right now, then I guess that doesn't matter. But we have 35 other episodes before this with after shows, and you guys can check those out on YouTube. But again, we'll see you next week for DPS DKs. But until then, and after that is Duck Sauce. Those are both 2 fun episodes. But we'll see you later, guys. Thank you again for watching. Have fun at work. Trust in the coin. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Say bye.
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 Later.
There you go. Yeah, perfect.